Nearly 250 years ago, Thomas Jefferson went on perhaps the ultimate booze cruise. And the story of that trip is one I've been dying to tell you. So let's rewind. It's 1787, 14 years before Jefferson would become president. At this point, he's the American ambassador to France, and he decides that he's going to spend 3 months traveling around France and Italy, tasting and buying the best wines that money could buy. But my favourite thing about this is that he wasn't totally truthful about why he was going. He had recently hurt his hand. He tried to jump over a fence, didn't quite make it, fell awkwardly. And so he said he was going to take the waters at various spa towns to help it heal. And while he was there, maybe he'd investigate the ports to see how American traders were doing, when actually it was the wine he was really interested in. He made notes of his trip and even turned them into a sort of travel guide for other Americans visiting France. But he wasn't necessarily the most respectful traveller. He says at one point that to really get to know the French, you must ferret the people out of their hovels, as I have done. For a wine lover, though, his journey is an absolute dream. Champagne, Burgundy, the Rhone Valley, Piemonte, Provence, and Bordeaux. And in Bordeaux, he described how chateaux like Margaux, Latour, and Lafite were the top estates, some 70 years before they were officially classified as the best. But his favourite wine wasn't one of the famous Bordeaux Reds, nor was it Sauternes from Chateau d'Yquem, which he also tried and loved. It was White Hermitage from the Rhone Valley, a quite rare white wine that even to this day can still fetch hundreds of euros per bottle. There were plenty of other things he observed which are surprisingly similar to today. He complained that Nice was full of the English and how the French always keep the best wine for themselves. Now, it all sounds like a bit of a jolly, and it is true that part of his purpose was to stock his own cellar. But he did have a bigger ambition. He wanted America to become a powerhouse of wine. At the time, there was virtually no winemaking in America at all, but he thought America would be a better, more hard-working country if he could get Americans off the hard liquor and onto wine, which might still be true. So as he travelled, he took copious notes about how the French and the Italians cultivated their grapes so he could help America do the same. He would eventually go back home and become famous for trifling things like being the president. But far more importantly, I think, he tried to set up some of the very first commercial vineyards in the country around his home in Virginia. Ultimately, he failed. It was a complete disaster. He never successfully bottled a drop of wine in his lifetime. But others, inspired by him, they did succeed. And today, America is indeed one of the powerhouses of global wine. And Thomas Jefferson, I think, has to take more than just a little credit for that. For more stories like this, make sure you hit follow or subscribe.